I now declare the Plano City Council is convened in open session, that all members are present. Councilmember Rick Smith will be on Zoom. We'll begin tonight's regular meeting with the invocation led by Pastor Ashish Matthew with the Commission Church and the Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge led by a Junior Girl Scout Troop 2171 from Dooley and Hickey Elementary Schools. Would you please rise?
Commission Church as we pray for the city of Plano this evening. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts filled with gratitude. We thank you for being a God of love who is with us now in this very room. Thank you for creating each person in this room and every citizen of our city in your image with inherent dignity and immeasurable worth. Thank you that your Son, Jesus, rose from the dead and now reigns as King over heaven and earth in the city of Plano. I pray that our city would be known for righteousness, a place of peace and hope, where families flourish, where strangers are welcome, and where the orphan and the widow and the needy are cared for with compassion. May we be known as a city that stands for justice, defending the innocent from harm, and above all, a city that boldly declares Jesus as Lord. I thank you tonight, God, for these exceptional servants, our mayor, city managers, staff, and our wonderful council members. I give thanks for the way of service that they have chosen to take up on behalf of all of us over here. We all come to this room tonight as complex human beings carrying burdens, joy, hope, and a myriad of emotions. But we trust that you alone can hold us together in this time and in this moment. There are many here that are looking for their voice to be heard and their pains and concerns to be heard by our elected servants. But more than our fears and our wounds and even our accomplishments, may we lean on your everlasting arms tonight. Lord, it's Apostle Paul writing to the Christians in Rome that tells them that those in authority are first and foremost your servants, O Lord, that honoring you and doing your will is their highest purpose, that any portion of power that they have is given by you and can be taken away by you, Lord. And so we pray that you would be glorified tonight through the decisions of this city council. We pray that your kingdom will come in Plano. We pray for wisdom, for strength, for courage to do what is right and good for all the citizens. It's my prayer that our city will be a shining example of a community that loves one another. In the middle of all the hate and divisiveness that runs rampant in our time, I pray for peace, unity, and revival in our city, state, and nation. Help us to turn from our evil ways and experience healing. We also pray for our city staff, our first responders, and all those who work hard to make this place that we call home a wonderful city. I pray this prayer in the powerful name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
You guys ready? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. you guys. The processes are straight acquisition versus reimbursement. Development agreements, there's a number of different ways of building. The council will now recess into executive session. So I now declare that the executive session is closed and the council is reconvened into open session. I now declare that the Plano City Council preliminary open meeting is reconvened. And our first item on the preliminary agenda is consideration action resulting from the executive session. Our next item is Personnel, Parks and Recreation Planning Board, the interim member and chair. Councilmember Horn, do you have some recommendations? That's all right.
Mr. Mayor, for chair, we'd like to nominate Patricia Johnson as she was vice chair. After discussions with her, she would be fantastic as the chairman to replace Mr. Hayden Paget.
Okay. Was that the only one?
No, we'll have
the interim member?
The interim member with
Jude.
Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Homer and I discussed bringing Catherine Landon Fitch
Okay.
as our interim member.
All right. Would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make the motion that Patricia Johnson becomes the chair and Catherine Landon Fitch becomes the interim member for the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion and a second to approve the appointments for Parks and Recreation. All in favor, raise your hand. We're not going to have that on the TV. Okay, motion passes. Were you able to get Rick back on?
He's not there. He should have.
Okay, yeah, text him and see if he needs some help. Next item is consent and regular agendas. Any item a council member would like to remove? Council items for discussion and action on future agendas. All right, so let's move on to the consent agenda.
The consent agenda. The consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion and contains items which are routine and typically non-controversial. Items may be removed from this agenda for individual discussion by a council member, the city manager, or any citizen. The presiding officer will establish time limits based upon the number of speaker requests.
Oh, there you go.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item.
Items for individual consideration. Public hearing items. Applicants are limited to 15 minutes presentation time with a 5-minute rebuttal if needed. Remaining speakers are limited to 30 total minutes of testimony time with 3 minutes assigned per speaker. The presiding officer may amend these times as deemed necessary. Non-public hearing items. The presiding officer will permit public comment for items on the agenda not posted for a public hearing. The presiding officer will establish time limits based upon the number of speaker requests, length of the agenda, and to ensure meeting efficiency, and may include a cumulative time limit. Speakers will be called in the order the requests are received until the cumulative time is exhausted. Item number 1. Public hearing and consideration of an ordinance as requested in zoning case 2024-20 to amend the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the city, ordinance number 2015-5-2 as heretofore amended, so as to amend Plan Development 71 Regional Commercial to include development standards for single-family residences and modify standards for phasing, open space, and other related standards on 89.1 acres of land located on the west side of Dallas North Tollway, 305 feet north of Park Boulevard and within the Dallas North Tollway Overlay District, with specific use permit number 570 for automobile leasing and renting in the city of Plano, Collin County, Texas, directing a change accordingly in the official zoning map of the city, providing a penalty clause, a repealer clause, a savings clause, a severability clause, and a publication clause, and an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Executives. I'm Christina Day, the Director of Planning, here to present this zoning case to you this evening. So the slide in front of you has two graphics that show the property in question. This is the Willow Bend Mall. It was rezoned to a planned development district back exactly 1 year ago in February of 2024, which allowed mixed-use development. So the request before you this evening is to modify that planned development district to allow single-family residences to be developed on the site. So these are examples of the plans that are submitted with the current request. You see the concept plan on the left side of the screen and the open space and phasing plan on the right side of the screen. So what is the current zoning? And then I'm going to talk about how it compares to the request now. This is a sample of a slide that you saw when this initial rezoning request occurred back last year in 2024. You can see the plan at that time was to demolish 530,000 square feet of the existing shopping mall, retain really the southwestern portion of the mall and some anchor buildings, creating a district through the center of the property. So the proposed zoning is changing the orientation of the way the site will develop. Now, rather than it being the southwest portion, the northeast portion of the mall is being retained. You see there's still residential development, but the addition of single-family development in the corner of Chapel Hill and Plano Parkway. So they're preserving a different portion of the mall, allowing single-family development. This did require some changes to the open space plan because that was tied to the previous ordinance. And so the reconfiguration of open space and internal street network is part of this request. So what has not changed, the number of total residential units is staying the same at 965 units with a cap of 40 multifamily units. The total required amount of open space is consistent. They're still showing the hotel along the Dallas North Tollway, and new open spaces required with new residential development. So considerations are the fact that the plan shows single-family attached units. These are modeled after the urban mixed-use district standards, so it utilizes an existing zoning standard that the city has. They're showing internal parking spaces within the development plan. They are also including a 50-foot setback from both major roadways. And again, this falls within the number of maximum residential units. Single-family detached would be allowed consistent with the PD 65 CB1 standards, and that is what you see at the Icon at Legacy West. That development includes a detached product similar to what would be allowed under the zoning as proposed. So the open space phasing, because of the change in the mall design, that needs to change as well. So again, the total is the same as under the current zoning. It's just reoriented with the new plan. So parking, providing parking to the residences is something that we spent a lot of time working on. They have dedicated in this PD 208 spaces on street within the quasi-public street network. So basically allowing all that public parking on the street to count towards residential development. And so it's clear whether or not that's going towards the adjacent commercial development, multifamily development, or single family. That's been decided, and that will allow some visitor spaces for this type of higher density residential development. So this is a suburban activity center on the future land use plan, and as you can see in the analysis, it meets or partially meets all the standards of the comprehensive plan. Regarding responses, this is, I just want to point out, there are two very small clips of property within the 200-foot buffer, so those are kind of expanded, so you can see one along Park Boulevard and the other along the Dallas North Tollway. So there were two letters, both in support, with those very small pieces of property. And then citywide, we had another response from an individual further north that you can see mapped on this property with 3 letters total in support, no neutral or opposed. And then we had 8 other letters that you should have received from staff representing other opinions, primarily from condo associations. So that was why they didn't count towards the property, even though they were in the vicinity, because they were not from the formal homeowners association for those condominiums. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this case by a vote of 4-1, and I'm available for questions you might have on this property.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Christina. I'll open the public hearing.
We do have speakers this evening. Mr. Dahlstrom.
Thank you very
So
much.
you'll be kicking it off.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Bill Dahlstrom, 2323 Ross Avenue. Thank you for allowing us to speak here tonight on this, again, really exciting project. I thought it was an exciting project last year. We got a lot of interest, as Christina said, in other types of residential styles. And based on that interest, we decided to take a step back, do some alternative design. We actually had another interest during our P&Z review, so we had to postpone our P&Z one other additional time. But we're back here tonight now with this plan that's really exciting, trying to reinvigorate the mall. And with me tonight are Stephen Levin, who is the founder and CEO of Centennial, and Michael Platt, who's the Vice President of Real Estate Development, is here as well. And rather than going on, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Platt, and he's going to present this really exciting project. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us tonight. Here we are 1 year later. Didn't expect to quite be here at that time, but the world is ever evolving, and as are our plans. But the one thing that hasn't changed is our goal for this asset is to really make it the vibrant community amenity that it so richly deserves to be. And I think what you'll see here on the coming slides here is exactly that. Bill introduced us. I won't go through this in detail, but this really is the reason we're here, right? It's Willow Bend is kind of yesterday's suburban mall, right? It was designed for a different era, a different time, a different mindset, and quite frankly, actually I heard tonight, I think a very great line is like the one thing that really doesn't work on this site is what's there today. I think it's such a fabulous piece of property. We are really proud to be a part of it, and we look forward to giving it its full due and to really bringing it back to the forefront of the community. So I won't go through that slide. I know we've been through this before. I think I'll just jump to the slides if I can here. Here's the mall as it exists today. Obviously it's undergone some changes in its almost 25 years of existence. 2 department stores have given way to a great restaurant district and an Equinox and Crate and Barrel. There was a 6 department store pad, if you recall, that was actually earmarked for Crayola, as you see on the plan there, kind of on the west side of the site. So there already have been some structural changes to the site, but what really hasn't been cured is the small shop retail and really kind of turning this center outward and really engaging it and stitching it into its community, which I think is what you'll see here on the coming pages. This, just for reference, is what we spoke about 1 year ago, almost to the day. We really looked at keeping we looked at right-sizing the shopping center, kind of taking the small shop GLA down to something we felt like was leasable and market appropriate, and then redeploying that real estate that was then kind of the northern run of the mall into something that is more vibrant and more relevant to today's consumers, retailers, residents, office workers, et cetera. This was a great plan, and I think it was something, as Bill just mentioned, it was a plan we were all very much in support of. Unfortunately, very shortly after achieving a vote of approval from this body, we received a phone call from Macy's saying they were going to close this store. And that really caused us to have to pause. Candidly, I would have liked to have gotten that information 6 months prior to that. But as I've said before, it was better than getting it 6 months later when we were shovels in the ground and actually going forth with this plan and then having to pivot at that point in time. So we took that information, we went back to sort of the drawing board to a degree. We still feel like the vision and the strategy for the center was correct, but we just needed to pivot in how we actually implemented that in terms of a planning diagram. And that is what you see now here in front of you. So same strategy, pieces are the same. It's the same chessboard, as I like to say. We're just moving the pieces around the chessboard and doing it in a way that is, I think, more relevant and actually more reflective of the market that, believe it or not, is different 12 months later. The major change here, and aside from just the overall planning diagram, is, as was mentioned earlier, the inclusion of single-family attached and single-family detached, which is something we did not offer before, and I think this body actually had some commentary before on that front. When we had a different real estate available to us, it was difficult to reasonably incorporate that use. But honestly, once the change happened with the Macy's store and that parcel and allowing us to sort of pivot, you can see there on the west side of the site, we actually have included 50 townhomes in here, actually 50 single-family detached, and we also have the ability to do single-family detached. And it's very important, just for, honestly, it's been a learning curve for myself and for our team to really understand just how crucial that is to this plan. We've gotten a lot of conversations, we've had a lot of conversations and gotten a lot of interest in that product type. It was something we really couldn't implement in the prior scheme, but I'm very happy to say we've, talking to a lot of very capable, very seasoned partners, and look forward to bringing them into the fold and helping implement that, that element of this plan. And we think it'll be a very compelling and a very exciting offering. So we will have a for-sale product on this site for the first time, and layer that in conjunction with, our rental, the mid-rise multifamily product. Obviously, our great retailers that exist today and new great retailers we will be able to attract and really create something here that we think is very compelling and very vibrant. A quick little kind of aerial view of what that might look like. You see there in the foreground from an orientation standpoint, the Crate and Barrel and the Equinox that exist today, two really great best-in-class retailers, and then really fronting both those retailers, in addition to Neiman Marcus, fronting a great new green space that has now actually more than tripled in size from its prior iteration. So we've really got this great town square, central square space, space that our team will activate and amenitize on a regular basis. I mean, think farmers markets and art festivals and wine tastings and movies in the park and all those great things that we all love to do and really great kind of community activities, but that Willow Bend really doesn't have a place to house at the moment. So we're very excited by that, a very vibrant green space. In fact, I'll jump forward to a lower view of that space. You can see the scale. It is very much 50-yard line at Willow Bend. A great new multifamily mid-rise building there to the left with ground floor retail, very highly amenitized ground plane, great landscaping, great vibrance, and new retailers, new restaurateurs, new entertainment concepts, really all coming together in support of a right-sized small shop GLA enclosed shopping mall and all that comes with that. So we really feel like we can create something for everyone here and create something that is, I think, very compelling and very, very much best in class. This is a new view here, kind of off of Chapel Hill. So you see the couple there walking across, crossing Chapel Hill into what would be the kind of western entrance into the shopping mall. Today, that is a parking deck that you'd see in a parking field off to the right. That's the site where we're actually earmarking our single-family product, and so you can kind of see a little taste of what that might look like as we obviously much more development to come, but a sense of scale, a sense of place, I think a really sense of the environment that we're trying to create, And then the really great community dog park and people park that's been a part of the plan from inception. They're kind of on the left. Lastly, I think a great thing about this plan is that it's allowed us to really, in some ways, insulate the restaurant district that's there today, and I mean that in a good way. I was very concerned about the prior plan. We were going to be really disruptive, and I think this is one of the parts of the center that really is very successful. And yes, there are sort of more leasing that needs to be done here, but it is beautiful. It's done well. We need to bring in the right tenancy that can really leverage what this infrastructure has to offer. But we were going to be tearing up where you see the word Bend there on the kind of in the back of the frame. Now keeping that northern part of the center, we've got the ability to sort of keep this center a little bit more intact, or keep this part of the center intact, and really create an environment that I think is best in class and best foot forward while we're developing the remaining part of the site. So exciting piece there. And then lastly, I just wanted to sort of touch base on, while we talk about all the pretty pictures and all the great new uses that are coming in here, it is important to us to really think about this from soup to nuts, right? From start to finish, and really looking at branding, looking at marketing, even things like construction barricades there in the bottom right, and just being very thoughtful of the fact that, the brand and what this center can mean and should mean to the community, and making sure that we're being good curators and good stewards of that asset through construction, and even as we hit the ground with groundbreaking and ribbon cutting. So, quick overview. Stephen Levin, I'd like to make a couple comments. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Stephen Levin with Centennial Real Estate. I just would like to say a couple things. These projects, it's actually written up there. We own this. Neiman's owns a part of this, and Dillard's owns a part of this project. And we aren't able to do anything unless they agree with what we do. And just to show you the commitment that we have, when Macy's called us and told us they were closing their store, which we had not anticipated, we bought their box. We bought their real estate that they owned, so they were the fourth owner of this project. We knew that if we didn't buy their box, we would not be able to do anything on this site. So we quickly mobilized to buy their box, and now we own that real estate, which gave us 2 of the 4 votes that are needed to be able to do anything here. And that's why we're back here, is that we, a friend of mine asked me what's going on out there at Willow Bend, and I said, this project reminds me of the quote by Mother Teresa when she was asked how she does what she does, and she said, I know God only gives me what I can handle. I just wish he didn't think so highly of me. And I just wish we weren't thought as highly, that we could tackle this project. It is very, very challenging, and in the meantime, the tenancy here is waning and struggling, as everyone knows, and we're trying to get started as fast as we can, but Macy's happens, and we had to mobilize to do that, and we had to stop to figure out, because at the end of the day, we can only build what's going to work. You only want us to do what's going to work and be successful, and that's why we've changed our plan based upon what Macy's told us. But we still have Neiman's to satisfy, and we still have Dillard's to satisfy before we can put a shovel in the ground. And that's why once we have approval, we can go to them and get approval. Not that we don't keep them apprised along the way, but it's not as simple. Neiman's, unfortunately, was purchased by another company that has a different mindset. You've read in the paper about closing the downtown Neiman store. So we have a different owner at Neiman's. So we are back because we had to come back in order to change the project in a way that we could start as quickly as possible and demonstrate that there's a new project coming, but we've got to get started. The single-family residences, quite frankly, we've had more interest in that product than anything we've talked about on this project today, and that's great. And as we said at the beginning, we're only going to build and deliver what the community wants and what works, and that's why we've made the change that we've made in order to get started. So we are appreciative of the City of Plano. We are appreciative of the Planning and Zoning Commission, who has worked with us tirelessly through this, and we are very appreciative of all of you who have listened to us. And we're here unexpectedly, but once again, and hopefully for the final time, to be able to get started on a project that we all desperately want to see move forward. And everybody part of this project desperately wants to see it move forward. So again, thank you very much for allowing us to come back, and we very much need this request in order to get started on this project. So thank you very much for your time.
Go ahead.
The next speaker is Rhett Broussard. 3 minutes each. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Rhett Broussard. I represent a few hundred homeowners of Willow Bend Polo Estates, which is located on the northeast corner, approximately, of the tollway and Park Boulevard. Our community has 5 retention ponds, which is almost 3 acres, essential to managing stormwater runoff currently. We are facing a significant challenge with expense related to the upkeep and management of these ponds exceeding $1 million this year. This is a map. Did I put it here? So this is a map showing all of the drainage that is feeding these 5 ponds when the neighborhood was first developed. Anything in green is the big drainage pipes, and then there's smaller ones leading into it. Now, we've attempted to get a watershed study, not the map, the study, from the City of Plano, and we've not had any success with that for this part of the watershed. Now I'm going to show another map that we discovered during a third-party company. This is the Willow Bend project. We are, as the board members, we are not opposing this project at all. We just need some help with it. So our biggest concern is we have experienced, and I don't know if you've ever been to Colorado or on the rapids, but there's levels 1 through 5. We've had level 4 go through our community to the point it was almost breaching Shattuck Boulevard, which is a street within our community, of the bridge underneath the ponds. We also have a humongous erosion problem. Let me go back. We have an erosion problem with some residential area in the neighborhood, and we also have some erosion problem down towards along Park Boulevard.
20 seconds.
Okay. We know there's a stream study being done by the City of Plano. We really would like a watershed study done prior to the approval of the Willow Bend Mall to see what the impact is going to be on our community. Because we've already had to put danger signs up due to silt buildup within the community. Nobody can go near the ponds because if they get into the side, they can sink up to 8 feet.
Thank you.
And we need some help.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Merrill Evans.
Honorable Mayor Mann and council members, my name is Merrill Evans. I have proudly called Plano home since 1996. I am here as a representative of NTPA's Accessible Theater Program, which includes Starcasters and the Deaf Theater. As a child, I performed on my front porch, never dreaming of performing in musicals as a person born profoundly deaf. Only through NTPA has that dream become possible. In a few weeks, I'll take the stage in NTPA repertoire into the woods, and I invite all of you to see the magic that happens there, where dreams come true. NTPA fosters a welcoming environment and ensures those often left out of the arts and society have a place to belong, whether on stage, backstage, or in the audience. As president at Willow Bend, strengthened Plano's reputation as a national leader in accessibility, as recognized by Wallet Hub. Also, through the repertory theater, NTPA provides professional quality theater right here. Plano has no land left to build a professional level performing arts venue. Thus, NTPA fills such important need. Last year, Centennial made a commitment to provide a long-term home for this vital institution. Our ask is that they keep their promise and recommit that promise that they made to NTPA and you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Manning.
Honorable Mayor Munns and council members, my name is Stephanie Manning, and I serve as an officer on the Board of Directors for North Texas Performing Arts in Frisco. I represent not only myself, but the thousands of visitors from Frisco and North who travel to Plano for our productions. This year, NTPA will produce nearly 40 shows in Plano, drawing over 40,000 ticketed patrons, many of whom support local businesses through dining, shopping, and more. Our vibrant arts presence not only enriches lives, but bolsters the local economy. Centennial and its partners made a promise a year ago to secure a long-term home for NTPA here, and we ask that this promise be honored.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Sarah Johnson.
Honorable Mayor Munns, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Sarah Johnson and I reside in Dallas. Like Stephanie, I represent a constituency that travels from outside of Plano, this time from Dallas. I've served as chair of the NTPA Dallas Board and president of the NTPA Governing Board of Directors. Each year, our Dallas operations bring 30,000 ticketed patrons and thousands more visitors to Plano. There is simply no other facility in DFW like the Willow Bend Center of the Arts, a unique fusion of performing arts, retail, and dining. A year ago, Centennial committed to NTPA and to you that NTPA had a long-term home at Willow Bend. We respectfully ask that they be held to honor that commitment.
Thank you.
Paul Evans.
Honorable Mayor Munns and City Council, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Paul Evans. I reside in zip code 75093 and have been a Plano resident for the past 29 years. I am an active Plano citizen, co-founding chairperson for NTPA's Deaf Theater, and continue to serve on its board. I'm a graduate of Plano's Citizens Academy, as well as the Citizens Police Academy, and I'm currently a member of the PCP AAA. And I'm currently a member of Leadership Plano Class 41, the best class ever. As has been said, a year ago, Centennial made a clear and public commitment to support NTPA and to provide a long-term home. 3 weeks ago, Centennial's testimony reaffirmed that position to the Planning and Zoning Commission, saying that the agreement signed a year ago was still intact and committed that NTPA, quote, can stay as long as they want to be a part of our family, unquote. As a citizen of this community and a participant in its processes, I would ask that Centennial clarify to you what exactly their position is, and to be asked tonight if it could be put into writing. If that is not possible, it would seem appropriate at this time to refer this back to Planning and Zoning for reconsideration in light of those news facts. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Alejandro Irevis.
Honorable Mayor Munns, council members, thank you for your time. My name is Alejandro Erives, and I have been a proud resident of Plano for over 10 years. I actually started in Plano, left for Northern California for a couple of years. I'm like, okay, enough of that. Come back, and I reside in Plano again. I serve on NTPA's Plano Management Board and have overseen its sponsorship of Plano's ISD outreach programs. I've also been part of outreach into economically challenged communities, awarding over $400,000 in scholarships each year. I've seen firsthand the impact of NTPA on kids that would normally not have ever been in theater before, but because of NTPA, they've had the opportunity and they've been successful at it. And so not only would these students, but also my own children, have grown as better people through their experience at NTPA. Clearly, we've got to get clarification for Centennial's intentions towards NTPA. Our ask is simple. Provided this project is constructed as proposed here, and barring another anchor leaving or other circumstances completely outside of Centennial's control that would make continuing impossible, NTPA will be provided a long-term home on the lease terms and rate agreed to a year ago in their current space. The problem is that we have run out of time to start looking now to find a new home. In order for us to fund, find, build a theater, and move, we are looking at a 3-year effort. We have only a little over 2 years in our current space. We have to find solutions, and I am asking for your help to keep this wonderful Plano institution, the largest arts organization in Plano, the largest youth theater in the country, and one of the most celebrated professional theater complexes in the Metroplex alive. Thank you for your support for this position.
Thank you.
Daryl Rodenbaugh.
Good evening. Honorable Mayor Munns, City Council members, City staff leadership, my name is Daryl Rodenbaugh. I reside at 3208 Oak Hollow in Plano. I am an unsalaried volunteer, privileged to serve as full-time CEO for the North Texas Performing Arts. As you can see here tonight, we're joined by quite a few of our patrons. These are individuals who come from Plano, Frisco, Dallas, and other cities across the Metroplex, all who travel many times a year to our facility at the Shops at Willow Bend. They represent 170 board members, the largest performing arts board structure in the country. They represent 11,000 youth in our programs and the most prolific performing arts company in the country, making its home here in Plano. I am truly sorry that I feel compelled to come back to you a year later, now with what seems to be a continuing challenge to secure a long-term home for the North Texas Performing Arts. It seems that the commitment a year ago to a long-term home upon terms that could sustain a children's theater is now being challenged. As a major recipient of support from the City of Plano, as the most active performing arts facility in the city, and as an institution moving towards its 4th decade in Plano, we believe that you have a pivotal role to play in this. What I'm asking for tonight is that all of us, Centennial and their partners, the city council, city administration, the retailers, the restaurant, and our community come together to make this project a success. And we want to be a part of the positive in making that possible. I'm also asking Centennial to confirm its commitment to NTPA, and that once the city council has weighed that commitment and determined a path forward, that we all work together with all speed and focus to deliver on Centennial's vision for the Bend. 8 years ago, the generosity of the shops at Willow Bend allowed us to quadruple our service to North Texas residents while creating an innovative programs for the deaf and special needs populations, and so much more, as over 300,000 patrons each year come to our Willow Bend facility for rehearsals, camps, shows, and special events, and then shop or celebrate at the Willow Bend restaurants. We are grateful for the generosity of Centennial in making all this possible, and it is our ask and prayer that Centennial continues to value our contribution to this place and the broader community as we work together to make this our home in the City of Excellence for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last speaker is Bill Lyle.
Good evening, council. I'm not here with a drainage problem. I'm not here to advocate for the arts, and I'm not here to advocate against Mother Teresa. I am here trying to get clearly understandable zoning ordinance in the city of Plano. On January 13th, the council passed the Expressway Corridor Overlay District. I'm quoting Christina Day from that meeting. It will simplify the process, standardize the mitigation, improve equity of outcomes. New quote. It also will help us avoid planned development districts to enforce the standards which are required today. Now, that today was that was January 13th. What got passed by you guys, the purpose, partly, and I'm having to just use pieces here, housing and healthy living environments is what it says in the purpose. The boundaries, the areas subject to these standards include all properties fully or partially within a designated expressway corridor area as established by the zoning map. The applicability, any use listed in the primary residential use. These residential uses are part of that. And then there's about 11 pages of ordinance that got passed. One of those, there was option A and option B. Option A and option B are not mentioned at all within this PD language. We're rewriting a PD again when we've just passed this. If you look at the picture right here, there's 3-story parking garage that is the buffer for 5-story multifamily. But what y'all passed on January 13th said that the building had to be as tall as the multifamily. I'm not going to pretend that I can figure all of the zoning ordinance out because it's quite difficult. There is language about basically rights that have been solidified somehow. That's not the right language, but rights have been solidified. I don't know if that's happened. There's also language in the parking ordinance or the parking structure piece of this that says existing buildings can stay. The question is, can existing buildings be the screening when it doesn't meet the ordinance for new residential? Or does the new residential trigger the setbacks and the mitigation requirements that you guys passed on January 13th? Thank you for your time.
There are no other speakers.
All right. With that, I'll close the public hearing and combine the comments to the council. Councilman Horn.
Thank you. Mr. Levitt, I have some questions about the project itself I'd like to ask you about from what we saw a year ago to today. First of all, I'm glad that you got notice that Macy's closed before we turned dirt. It is somewhat tragic that the downtown Neiman's is going to close. And in today's paper even, they talked about the trickle effect that they're going to invest $100 million in the Neiman's North Park. I'd like to see a little bit of that money come also up to Plano, because I guarantee there's a lot of shoppers in Plano that travel the tollway to go to downtown Neiman's. But what I'm getting at here is there's a couple of things. One, you took under advice from a year ago that we'd like to have seen a more variety on the residential units, correct? We now have, how many single-family detached units do we have now that you're proposing?
About 50 units right now.
50? And then how many that are going to be single-family attached units?
I think that's the total between attached and detached.
Okay, and then the rest are going to be multifamily, is that correct?
As it currently stands, yes.
Okay,
The way
great.
it's proposed currently, yes.
So you did take from us the advice to go ahead and provide some variety to the housing units, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So that's really from the clarification what I'm getting at here. When we had Macy's, we were under, both in planning and zoning and on council, we were under the impression that you were going to relocate North Texas Performing Arts next to Macy's, and you had worked out a contract with them. Right now, and I'm just kind of looking at your schematics, are you planning to offer the same type of contract to NTPA? Now you don't have to relocate them. They stay there. Are you going to plan on keeping them there next to the Dillards that, as to where they're at currently?
Let me try to speak to that and a little bit broader to the question, because I feel like that we have been, and I apologize for maybe feeling a little bit defensive about the position that we are being placed in, or stated to be in. We acquired this project. North Texas Performing Arts was a tenant, is a tenant. We had 50 other tenants in the project, still have 30 of those tenants that are in the projects. Every one of them has a lease. And all we could do by acquiring the project is honor the leases that are in place. And we've done that with every single tenant and with North Texas Performing Arts. We've expressed an interest since day one with North Texas Performing Arts that we are community oriented. We like the use. We like what they do. And to the extent that we are able to include them in our project, we would love to do that. Their space is virtually free. It is economically a terrible deal. And yet, to the extent that we can accommodate them under their current lease, which we tried to do prior to the last zoning hearing, which we wanted to do. But at the same time, that commitment, that is the way it's called, commitment, is based upon what this project will be. As I said earlier, we don't have a commitment ourselves. We don't have a commitment from Neiman's. We don't have a commitment from Dillard's. We don't have a commitment from the people we need commitments from to execute the project that we're laying out. We're trying to get all of that and pull it together. And to the extent that we are able to do that, we signed an agreement with them that's saying that we would continue on with the term of a deal that is a loss to us if we had a project that could accommodate them. And when Mr. Rodenbach called me weeks ago, we have addressed this. We would love them to be on this project if we can accommodate them. But we cannot make a commitment, an absolute commitment, without having commitments ourselves as to what can be done on this project. So to the extent, if this is the plan that we are able to execute, there is a place for them in this plan that we would be more than happy to have them as part of this. If we can retain that much of the mall, we are willing to effectively donate a big amount of space that financially makes no sense for us to do. And that's what we've said from day one, but we have to have a project that allows us to do that. And we're trying to get there, but we can't make a commitment no more than anyone can make a commitment before they understand what they have. And so we can't go any further than we've gone today, which is expressing our willingness to try to, we're not the culprit. They signed a lease 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We just bought the property. We've done nothing but honor their lease and have conversations about our willingness to work with them. But we're trying to get our own project going. And until we have answers, we can't give them answers. We can't give Neiman's answers. We can't give Crate and Barrel answers. We can't give Equinox answers. They're all asking, what are you doing? And we can't give them any commitment either. Crate and Barrel has got a year left on their lease. They come to us, what are we doing? Do you want to renew us? We can't commit to them because we don't know until we get our zoning tonight and we can start down a path. We can't make a commitment to Crate and Barrel. We can't make a commitment. I don't know whether Neiman's, to your point, I would love, the shocking part of that article didn't mention Willow Bend. Didn't say a word about Willow Bend. Doesn't make you feel good when they say North Park, we're going to invest $100 million. They don't even say we have another store in Dallas. Forget about whether they were going to invest any money in it. So my kids grew up with the arts. My kids are, heavily involved in the arts. I've repeated this many times to Mr. Rodenbaugh. I love the arts. I love the use. We don't want to displace the North Texas Performing Arts Center, but we're not in control of everything here. We've got to get control and be able to deliver something, and if we can, we would love to do it. We understand everything that they do. We want the community to come to this project and experience it. But we can't make a commitment we can't deliver on. And we're trying to get a shovel in the ground, and we're trying to get going so that we can. We have to be able to lease that portion of the mall. We can't have a mall that is empty. And right now, we can't get anybody to lease that mall. And we're trying, and we can't get anybody to lease the mall. So we are trying to get a project going, and we want to keep more than just them. We want to keep some other tenants as well. And if we can accommodate them, it is certainly something we would like to do.
So is the first step of this commitment approval by this council with your
Council member,
changes?
we need to stay on land use.
I'm staying on land use.
Well,
Okay.
you weren't a minute ago.
Okay, I
All right.
apologize then. So with your moving forward for commitments, you need to have approval by this council. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we're here because right now, this use is what is desired and helps us get going. Okay.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Levin. Our city attorney may disagree with me. Let me know if that's the case, Paige. I think the discussion of the types of businesses we have on this property are relevant to land use. With a lot of shopping and dining available and expected to be available, as we talk about North Texas Performing Arts, that's a unique aspect to this property and indeed the whole area, which, as we discussed a year ago, helps set it apart. So to me, that does speak to the land use, what kind of property we're going to have should this go forward. I understand there are other owners that have to have their say. And I also understand you can't make commitments on behalf of those owners, but you could make contingent commitments in order to make sure that what we all understood a year ago and what Planning and Zoning asked a few weeks ago remains what several folks feel is an integral part of what the entire property can offer once this redevelopment takes place. Is a contingent commitment possible?
Again, guys, I mean, you and I are disagreeing on what land use is, but the request is this right here in front of you. And you, again, I don't know that we have the authoritative body to negotiate leases.
Well, I'm not proposing to negotiate the lease.
You just said the contingent on, would you agree to something on contingency? But that, again, that's not what they're requesting tonight.
Well, just as Planning and Zoning asked this a few weeks ago, I'm asking for a commitment, understanding that Centennial can't commit on behalf of its partners.
Honestly, I don't know what else we can do. I do not know what else we can do. I'm concerned that the city is asking a group of people to commit to something about this entire 90-acre project. We bought this and made a big investment. We're trying to figure out how it doesn't just die and be torn down. At this point, it is on the move of being torn down entirely, and then nobody's here. So I don't know what else to do. I've said everything I could possibly say about our desire, but there's contingent commitments just don't mean anything. There's so many contingencies. No one I can't remove the contingencies that I have. I don't know how to provide a contingency when I don't have the answers. I would love to be in a position to give you a clear answer, but I don't have my answers such that I can't provide. The contingency is this contingent on things I don't even know. We didn't know Macy's was going to close. I didn't know that was going to happen. And it did. And right now, every day is a new development at this project. And we don't know, I don't know if Neiman's is going to be here. I don't know what they're going to be willing to do or not do. They own that land. We can't touch this project without them.
Well, maybe I wasn't clear about what I meant. There's a development proposal before us. And when I said contingency, I meant if the development proposal we've been presented does go forward, as we thought a year ago that one would go forward, under that contingency, that this goes forward as planned.
I don't know how to I'm a managing member of an investment business that has a lot of people number of partners in it that I can't just, no more than any of you can commit with investors or partners or people that you have to get approval from. What we have said and what we signed was that if we had a place, because the mall was standing, and we had a place, we had made a decision that we would relocate them, and we agreed to pay a certain amount of money, and we all agreed to do that if we had that part of the mall available to put them in. We agreed that we were going to do that, and we were going to spend a significant amount of money to lose a lot of money. We made that agreement.
So, sir, I'd like to offer another thought, if I might, because I understand you're in a difficult predicament here, and I know that our council and our community loves our Performing Arts Center. So, I do think it's a challenge to put you in this situation tonight here, but it's also a challenge for the council to get in a situation where we would say, please, make this special negotiation for one tenant, but not Crate and Barrel or the other. That's something that I don't think we should, as a council, get into. What I would like to ask the city manager is, because the Performing Arts Center is so important to our community, their grant recipient, other things, is it possible that maybe at a future agenda or a future meeting with the city manager that we get with the leaders of NTPA and we have a conversation about potential options that we could start looking at for a location in the event that it doesn't work out at the Shops of Willow Bend?
Happy to.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maria.
Mr. Mayor, I hear your pain, Mr. Levitt, and I understand doing business sometimes is very cold and vicious, and sometimes you have a heart, and I hear that. I hear that from your voice. So I wanted you to know that. But with that said, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve this item.
All right. Thank you. I have a motion, a second, to approve item number 1. Please vote.
Mayor, I just want to say that it's known that I have a relationship with North Texas Performing Arts. I see no conflict of interest here, but as such, I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Thank you. Motion passes 6 yes, 0 nays, and 1 abstain.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Next item.
Item number 2, public hearing and consideration of a resolution to authorize a substantial amendment to the 2023-2024 action plan for the use of U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program funds and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, Curtis Howard, Director of Neighborhood Services, and we are here to talk about CDBG funding. One of the things, thank you. Of course, every year we come by with an action plan, and that action plan provides you information on what we're going to do with grant funding that has been approved by the CRC, Community Resource Commission, and the 23-24 action plan. One of the things that they did is they approved some grant funding to My Possibilities. So since that time, there has been a change by a request by My Possibilities to change the use of that. Get the slides here. Change the use of that funding. They were originally going to build a fence around their property, and due to some property changes, what they now have is they now have a soccer field. They're going to locate on the kind of southeast corner there of the property. And this is going to be basically next to the feeder road there on George Bush. And so what they want to do is they want to take the money they were going to use, approximately $116,000, and build a fence around the soccer field and 2 ADA-approved bathrooms. So with that, since there is a change that has not been approved, we have to come before you. We have to publish that. Those have both been done. And this was brought to the CRC back in September, and they have approved the request for this change. So at this point, we're going to ask you for approval also.
Thank you, Curtis. Any questions for Curtis? Anthony?
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, let me get you.
No worries.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Curtis.
Yes,
so
sir.
I just wanted to ask, at a previous meeting, we had talked about wanting to potentially provide more facilities funding for social services organizations in our community because of the cap on CDBG funding for social services operations, that we could support these organizations through greater funding for social services facilities in our community. I was wondering, since it sounds like My Possibilities actually has two different uses that would be good uses of these funds, is it possible that we could amend our plan to do a little less housing rehabilitation and do both of these?
Well, the grant application process is open.
Oh, okay.
So for this
so
next,
that-
since this is 23-24, this is the last process that they're trying to change the way they're using their funding. So we.
I see. So that could come back next year. It's just the grant application process is over this year. I see.
Yes,
that
sir.
makes sense. Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification, Curtis.
All right. I'll open the public hearing.
We do have one speaker. Bill Lyle.
I just saw him leave. Maybe he'll come back.
Mr. Lyle.
All right. All right. I'll close the public hearing, confine the comments to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve this agenda item.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve item number 2. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 3, discussion and direction regarding the 2025 bond referendum educational materials.
Am I zooming or am I here?
You're here.
But I'm told I have to zoom.
Well, no, this is an agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it went to public comment.
Well, come on. You want to?
What item?
I don't want to turn you. Well, you got to guess that one.
Okay, then I'll pass on this one.
All right.
We're trying to zoom.
Well, you have one more in person before you have a Zoom.
All right, what's that one?
I don't know. You tell me. All right. Item 3.
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Discussion and direction regarding the 2025 bond referendum educational materials.
All right. Sure. Yeah. You want to do comments?
I have no comment for you.
Okay. All right, Anthony. This is your baby right here.
Thank you, Mayor. So, just because I'm a visual person, I'm passing around the two things that I had proposed at the last meeting. It's the same language from last meeting, but anyway, I just wanted to quickly speak to this because I know we've talked about this at probably at least 3 meetings now, and some of you may be wondering why won't he just drop it. So. I really appreciate the staff's and our bond counsel's patience and work on this. I will tell you the reason that I think this is so important for our city is based on my experience over these nearly 8 years on the council. In the 2017 and 2021 bond elections, I'll tell you, I noticed misunderstandings in the 2017 bond election. Being on the council in 2021, I tried to get more voter education material out there to understand that the 1-year cost that we publish is only 1 year out of the 20. But that time I did drop it because we were a little late in the process, and so this time in 2025, I was determined to start earlier because, and y'all know I did, we've discussed it a few times, because I really believe that the current way that we're doing this generates misunderstanding. I think some people think that the year 4 cost that we publish is the total cost, and so it's really important, I think, for our city to increase this understanding, and I'll tell you, it's personally important to me to do that before I leave this council, because I think it's important to our community. So I've heard people talk about, other cities are not doing it this way, we're doing it the way that other cities do it. I will tell you, it's been my experience in these nearly 8 years on the council that our philosophy in Plano is not to stay right in the middle of the pack or just do things the way that other people do them. I think we have a city of excellence mentality that Plano doesn't follow, Plano leads, and I would like to set an example that other cities could follow. The fiscal roadmap that we've just been talking about, that shows innovation, and, I'm reminded of, not just the tremendous innovation that City Manager Israelson has done during his tenure, but even going back before that, City Manager Glasscock had a saying that we do what we know until we know better than we do better. And so I think we've had an opportunity to notice that there is a better way to get information out in the community so that people will understand that they're voting on paying not just this amount, but paying an amount like this amount for 20 years. I know that we have a shared goal of just getting truthful, accurate information out, and I believe that we can do it. So I've proposed these two things for our voter education materials. I know we've been advised that the cardinal rule is just to be truthful and accurate. I believe these are truthful and accurate statements, so I would ask that, and by the way, I did make one change based on Councilmember Prince's feedback at the last meeting. I agree there are places where we probably can't put this, but on the website and in the voter education materials that are disseminated to residents, like those that we mail out, any mention of the year 4 1-year snapshot of the cost of the projected tax rate increase to the average Plano homeowner will be accompanied by the following statement, or one very similar to it, in bold, in the same size of type. This amount is only a 1-year snapshot of the cost to the average Plano homeowner of the projected tax rate increase during a single year, the 4th year after the bond election. The debt on these bonds will have to be paid back every year for 20 years, and this amount only reflects the cost of the projected tax rate increase in one of those 20 years. That's a factual, accurate statement, so I think we'd be on firm ground to do that. And then the second direction that I would have us give is that the year 4 snapshot number will not just be the cost of the projected tax rate increase, but also the total difference in the average homeowner's property tax bill, including the amount that can be absorbed into the current interest and sinking rate. Because, of course, I think $183 million was the number that's absorbed into the current interest and sinking rate. I think adding these two pieces of information to our voter education materials will increase understanding in our community so we can have an informed electorate. So
do you really think that provides clarity?
I really do, but
Okay.
if there's a different wording that
Well,
other people,
I
just wanna make
think
sure
I think
people
we
know
have
this. Yeah.
an example from our bond council, and one of the things at the bottom that I think is really critical, I'd say more people don't understand this than they should, is the calculations don't factor in the tax freeze that the city has adopted for qualifying taxpayers
Yeah.
over 65. I think that's a real important fact that needs to be on there.
I agree, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to be exclusive. I think everything that was in the bond council email also is good to include.
Well,
and I wasn't meaning
I
to
think
not
one of the
include
things
that.
that we just want to make sure that there's no liability on Mark and his staff, that there's anything not factual that would come back to bite him and us. And I would just, I know you're a lawyer, but I would just like to have the bond council
Absolutely.
Preview anything that we want to present on a published.
That was another question, Mike. This is on the public hearing agenda item, so.
No, it's not public hearing. It's just council discussion. Yeah.
So there is no vote on this, we're just talking about it, is that?
Well, it'll be direction,
It'll be
because
direction.
we need to get this started.
Yes. And this is Bob Dransfeld, our bond counsel here, so he can help address some of those questions. So Bob, some of the feedback you gave us, the bullet point list, has obviously been passed along to City Council for their consideration. So again, I think if you can weigh in a little bit here on the clarity, I think that'd be much appreciated.
I'm happy to do that. Mayor and members of the council, my name is Bob Dransfield, and the challenge, I think, in part, is when you have a long period of time, like a 20-year horizon, it's hard to kind of have the contingencies covered. So what you need to try to summarize, I think, in some respects, is these things that are variable. So just in what you just handed me, Mr. Manager, you talk a little bit about,
you know, 1 year snapshot, and you talk about the tax rate a single year in the fourth year after the bond election. Well, it's hard to say whether that's really accurate. You know, will that be the fourth year? Will it be the fifth year? Will it be the third year? When are you trying to take that picture? And so I tend to think about these things as a motion picture as opposed to a still shot. And when you put those things out that are just trying to highlight this, it's easy to do math and say, look, if you have this amount of debt for this amount of years, over this amount of time, and the interest rate and so on, but you've got to factor in what the totality is. And that's the only thought process. As I've told you before, I have no problem at all with trying to figure out the right explanation in your voter information material. But I think you want to be providing as an accurate and complete a picture as you can. And I think that's part of what this discussion is here to me. So when you think about a 20-year horizon, you don't know whether you're going to refund bonds. You don't know what the tax rate's going to be that year. You just don't know a lot of things. So, but you can do a math equation. But then I think, as I think what I provided earlier, has got a lot of thought process in terms of you got to have the criteria that supports with what you're talking about. And if you don't have that criteria, you maybe not have quite a complete and accurate picture that you're trying to portray.
Well, Mr. Mayor, could I just ask?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Bob, surely there's no issue with saying that we're providing a 1-year tax increase snapshot and that we pay the bonds for 20 years, right? Those are factual statements that pass muster?
Well, it's factual in the sense that, yes, you have a maturity of 20 years. You may or may not pay it. You may pay it in 10 years and have a refunding or redemptions for a cost or savings. So that's the kind of stuff that I think when I'm reading these things as a bond lawyer. But is it true that you'll have a stated 20-year maturity? That probably could be the case, yes.
Okay, and I guess what I'm getting at is, I'm not wedded to these words. I'm certainly not a bond attorney. I just want to make sure that our voters are clear that when they see that number, that's based on the projection for the tax increase for 1 year, and that we don't pay off all of these bonds in 1 year, because I do think there are voters who have that misconception based on the materials that we provide. And so I just, I think that there's got to be some way to say, we don't pay it all off in 1 year. These are 20-year bonds, right?
Well, there are charts get done all the time that show you kind of what your anticipated debt schedule is and what's coming new and what the projected amortization schedule is going to be and all those types of things. So that's yes. The short answer is yes. You can find good depictions of those types of informations that you're looking to take care of. They all have assumptions to them, and that's the only point I'm trying to make is that, you've got to clarify what those assumptions are to really make it to have a meaningful impact.
Absolutely, and I'm not talking about, even providing a number. Y'all know I wanted to provide a number, but I'm certainly deferring to your advice. I'm just saying there's got to be a way to tell voters that these are 20-year bonds. I mean, that's a factual statement, right, to say we're issuing 20-year bonds?
Well, I expect it to be a factual statement because you all will decide what the term is going to be when it comes time to issue those bonds. You may say, okay, for this particular year, you're going to do it as a 15-year debt, but I think that that's fair.
Okay.
But but remember, all you're going as part of this process is come back and say, we're asking authorization to do this amount of bonds over this period of time. You all will decide how many bonds, and that's another part of this discussion. So if you said, are we going to take the full enchilada at one time? That's probably not likely. You're probably going to have 3 or 4 or 5 issues over the scope of this authorization. So, and then you may say, well, we've issued 2 of these 5 installments, but for whatever reason, we're not ready to do the next 3 for the time being. So there's just all these variables. That's the only point I'm really trying to make.
And I appreciate those points, but I guess in your professional opinion, is there a way to tell voters that the number that we're putting out is a 1-year snapshot of what we project will happen in the 4th year? Because, I mean, it is a year 4 number that we've been given, at least in the materials we were provided, to tell voters this is not the whole enchilada. This is a 1-year snapshot, and these are anticipated to be 20-year bonds. I mean, that seems to me that that's important information for voters, and don't you think that's a factual statement?
Well, it can be, but what I'm suggesting, but in the absence of the assumptions, and you've got to figure out what that's going to be because you've arrived at a number that's based on something. It's based on authorization that you're issuing, and ultimately it's going to be based on an interest rate that's going to be secured and those types of things. So I have no problems, I've told you before, in having some sort of disclosure that says,
right,
here's this, and you correctly stated the assumptions that have application. And it seems to me that that's what you really want to try.
Absolutely, and I think we can put, you know, as many disclaimers on it as we need, but I really, you know, I don't think I'm hearing anything that we can't make a factual statement about. These are 20-year bonds, you know, we're anticipating that they'll be paid for 20 years.
Well, I don't, Karen, what did you have to say?
Well, I'm just gonna let y'all know, we have that all the way through the publication, that these are 20-year bonds.
I'm just saying that the number, because we publish a number that's a 1-year snapshot, but
Well, we're
I don't-
publishing that number, that's the $200 number.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's one of the things that's so truthful about our publication, is we're saying over a 4-year period. Now, I've told y'all before, the likelihood of us doing all that in 4 years, you know, it's probably gonna be 5 or 6 years out, so that number
Okay.
comes down. But we do have all that 20-year stuff in there, and we have the total life of it, all that. All we're saying is how that calculation going all the way out, that $6,500, that is just not a factual
well,
statement, sir, at all.
and I hear you. Y'all know I preferred to include that, but I've backed off of that based
Okay.
on that advice. So I just want to make sure everyone's understanding what I'm proposing. I'm not talking about putting that number out anymore. What I'm talking about is just this statement, you know, which I've emailed to the staff at least a couple of times, you know, just saying, and if this needs to be wordsmithed, you know, I'm not a bond attorney. I'm just saying I want to make it clear that this is a 1-year snapshot and that the bonds are 20-year bonds, so that voters understand. If you think you're getting all of this for a one-time payment of $200, that's not true. You know, I just want to make sure voters understand that.
So Bob, we have the year 4 payment in there, and Karen acknowledged that we acknowledge that these are 20-year bonds.
Yes.
So in the publications, those are both in the planned aspect for citizen, the citizen education information, correct?
Yes.
Both of those statements are in there, correct?
Yes, they're all in there. Also, I will tell you one thing, and we got this from we got this from the last time we all met. I did a lot of research over this last week, and several entities are now putting in the statement on, you know, over 65, and you got the disabled. We're going to include that all over the place in there. So I will tell you that. That will be in there. But yeah, all that other stuff's already in there.
So I think Councilman Riccadelli is really trying to teach me, because I'm one of those that are totally dense when it comes to numbers. But I do want to emphasize that Plano has a really smart group of residents. I mean, we are one of the highest educated group in the entire DFW area, in terms of education, as well as people who are very well well aware of what's going on. I have many people approach me and told me, they were able to work the numbers better than I can. And so I wanted to know whether or not a very simple way of asking this question, like, can it be compared to if I were to go out and buy a house and take a 20-year mortgage, but if I take it on a flexible interest rate, then I wouldn't know what next year is going to be, right? I mean, I wouldn't know what this year is going to be. And I may come into inheritance of, a lot of money, and I would decide that maybe I'm going to use that money and pay a little bit extra every year, or pay it off completely. Am I correct? Is that pretty similar to what we're talking about when we're talking about the bond?
I think a home mortgage concept is pretty similar, because you're buying something over time.
Right.
And then the variables that you have that go into that, you'll have the typical transaction where you have a little call protection. You can't prepay too early. Mm-hmm. And it's all based on, as you suggested, the rate. So you have this asset you're buying, you're paying for it over time, and you may elect to pay for it over a longer period of time. You may refinance that and shorten that. You may do other kind of variables. So, but you will know at the start, when you issue that first series of bonds, what the average maturity is going to be for that particular series of bonds for that amount that you're issuing, and you figure that out accordingly. One of the tricky parts is to say, look, if you're taking this total bond package and you're going to issue that over what period of time? And so if you're going to do it in installments, or you're trying to suggest it's if you issued it all at one time, which you just won't do. You you've got to spend the money within 3 years, and I don't think that's hard to spend that much
So
money.
you're talking about like all these different propositions, and maybe we're buying 5 houses instead of just 1 house at, when we.
It certainly is a way to think about it. I mean, you can put an example out to say, look, you know, if you have a house of X, valued at X, and you're gonna do this, and the interest rate of this, and it's gonna be paid out over X number of years, you can kind of get to a number. You can back into those numbers.
But it's never going to be exactly what it is.
It will not
You
be
could-
exactly.
You could say, yes, we're going to have to, it's going to be paid over time. It's going to be approximately so much, but the closer you are towards the beginning of the mortgage, it's easier to calculate. Whereas, who knows what's going to happen 20 years from now? You may have already paid it off, or you may not have paid it off. I mean,
Right.
is that what you're trying to say?
Well, you'll have an assumed interest rate. So if you said, we're gonna X number of dollars with an interest rate of X, and let's pick up, you know, whatever the number is, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever's applicable, you all borrow at a really good rate. So you'll have a very attractive interest rate when the time comes. But you'll have to figure out, to really get a good, accurate picture, you've got to make that assumption as to what you're borrowing at and how much you're borrowing.
And I think what Councilman Riccadelli really wants to emphasize is not how much it is, but
That's right.
rather that this is going to be paid over time rather than a 1-year snapshot. Is that what you're trying to say? And you know, with that, I understand, and I think that the staff has put that in there plenty of times, right?
It's in there, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
For clarification, is it explicitly in there a number of times that this is a 1-year snapshot? Because simply saying it's a 20-year bond, I speak from talking to many folks, when we're up to our eyeballs in taxes and funding and INS and everything that nobody else understands anything about, it's intuitive. But a lot of property taxpayers out there don't understand the nuances or even high level. One of the very common things is when they're told that a bond won't affect their taxes, they think they don't have to pay for it, many people. And so they infer a great number of things, which is why I think what Councilman Riccadelli here is proposing is very important, because if you show many people a 1-year snapshot, they will infer that that's all there is to it. Saying elsewhere that it's a 20-year bond doesn't necessarily cause those synapses to fire and make the connection.
So, did everybody read these 6 points that we got from Hilltop? I mean, are you satisfied with the current language from the bond council?
Okay, now let me tell you something. This publication, like all these, they'll take half a page. And all I'm saying is we have, you know, all the different paragraphs, you know, Sean, are you still here? What is it, 6 pages, I guess? The majority of
I mean,
it.
I'm
So,
not,
you know, I'm just saying,
I
it's
get
not
it.
all can be listed. It might be better suited to list them out like on the bond website that we're planning on setting up.
okay. I mean, I get it. But this is no critique to you, Anthony, but this is just as hard to understand what you're trying to say on your 2 bullet points, and I don't mean it negative at all, but I mean, it's just as convoluted as some of these over here. And so, like you said, is there a way we could come up with language very quickly
I was gonna say, it's gonna have to be really.
that would say what you're asking to say, and yet at the same time reduces the amount of verbiage that we're trying to.
And Mayor, I think you could even do something as simple as say something like, it's envisioned that you'd authorize the issuance of these bonds over a 5-year period of time.
That's what I've got in there.
It's effectively there, yes. So but I think we may clarify that just a little bit based on this conversation.
And then
Okay.
add in, you know, I know we have 20-year in there, but we'll just make it more of a statement that this will be paid out over the 20 years.
Okay.
And if I could just ask, Mr. Mayor, is it okay to include just where that number is, just that statement that it's a projected 1-year snapshot? Because, I mean, that's what it is, right? It's a
I guess what
one-year,
I need to
year-forward
do, and
snapshot.
of course, on Wednesday, I'm gonna redo the whole publication, then it's gonna go over to Bob for him to get his legal opinion on. Right now, what we have in there is based on a average home right now, and we've got the 4% interest rate. Our existing property values are gonna go up 3.5%. We got new growth coming on. After, if we were to issue the, what are we at, 650 million over the 4-year period, which ends in 2029, at the end, that would be 200 bucks, okay? So that's what we've got in there, and what we can do after that, definitely adding in the 65 and over.
Sure.
After that, we can just, at the very end, put some kind of phrase at the bottom, just reminding them this is to be paid out over the 20 years.
But I guess my concern, and I apologize for quibbling, but my concern even with that is that would be open to the interpretation that the $200 is paid out over 20 years. I guess what I'm hoping to see is some statement that the $200 itself is a one-year snapshot. And yeah, just to make it
Yeah,
clear,
but,
this is
I
a
mean-
1 year.
That's
This
what
is
But
an
that number's
increase
gonna-
in a single year.
It will vary. I mean, that's the problem with
Well,
that.
but what we're projecting though is for that 1 year in 2029, maybe that's what we say. This is the projected increase for the single year 2029, but it is anticipated that these will be 20-year bonds.
Council, let us take a look at this, this week to see what I think we've heard the intent of making sure we're clear that it's a single year, that the maturity life is projected to be 20 years at issuance, and that we project to issue all the debt over 4 to 5 years.
All right.
Did y'all see the chart? I
Yeah.
thought this was a beautiful chart.
No, it's good.
Absolutely.
We are thinking about putting it in the publication some way, because seriously, if you look at these green lines, you see in 2029, that's the
it's
top. Well,
gorgeous.
then it starts falling off because you got all this other debt being paid off. Did y'all like that?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I've never
I thought it
seen
was
such
gorgeous. I love
such
it.
a work of art. Yeah, it's
Oh,
It is.
no,
never
no,
mind.
no, no. I get
I'm
it.
tired.
I get it. Shelby, did you have anything else? I'm
Just
sorry.
a little suggested language. I know, Mark, you said go back and take a look at it, but where that number is given, just this amount is an estimate of the tax burden only in the 4th year. Taxes must be collected for each of the 20 years of the bond's issuance.
Okay. Take that as
That's fine.
an example and let us know how that works out.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Moving to comments of public interest. You're last, so you got time. Okay, go. All right. Okay, just 4. All right, we ready?
We are ready.
All right.
Comments of public interest. This portion of the meeting is to allow up to 3 minutes per speaker with 30 total minutes on items of interest or concern and not on items on the current agenda. The council may not discuss these items, but may respond with factual or policy information. The council may choose to place the item on a future agenda. And we do, okay.
Here we go. Well, go ahead. Let's just go ahead and let Bill go.
We'll let Bill
Go ahead, Bill.
go ahead.
Well, hold on. Mute. You're muted. Can you hear me? Oh, you have our IT department helping you too.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Go ahead.
All right, this is absurd, Mayor Munns. We've got IT staff over here setting up a computer so I can walk away to come and address you.
Okay.
This is not excellent. Staff laughs at this. They do this for P&Z too. I didn't know they moved P&Z to 6 o'clock. I was there to make comments at 6:28 and the meeting was over. But I learned that they had a computer set up over here in a different room. I think as an elected official, you owe it to the public, not just me, to know when we're going to have these comments and to be able to address you in person. I think it's time to bring them back. The excuse of technology is gone. It was absurd from the very beginning, which was pointed out by someone on council. Skipping to a different topic, you know, how disappointing that a law that you guys just passed on January 13th gets completely ignored and then brought to your attention, and you have the planning director there, and not one person says, hey, Bill had a couple points. What do you think about that, Christina Day? If we say that the mitigation has to be X, Y, and Z in zoning case 2024-25, and we didn't meet it here, and they're here for a new zoning case, they don't have vested rights, and you guys just ignore your own law. Not one question. I mean, maybe there were good answers, but nobody asked one question. This is such a great example to the potential council members that are sitting in the audience of the way not to do it. And I love the conversation that you guys just had. We deserve to see how y'all are making the sausage. That was an excellent discussion. But it's time to bring public comments back. That's all I've got for y'all. Thank you.
The next speaker is Daniel Rodriguez, and we will move him into the meeting. Is Daniel coming in? There we go. He's moving. It just takes a while. Daniel, if you'll go ahead and turn your camera on. Go ahead.
I was having some videos. But anyway, I just want to make a comment on about DART. Actually, I feel like it's best if we don't remove the buses, and if we don't remove buses, and we just keep the citywide goal link, including not removing buses, because it will lead to many congestion and many like high on demand, pretty much. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Nathaniel Adam.
Hello, you guys hear me? I believe.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Hello, Plano City Council. My name is Nathaniel Adam, and I live at 7128 Libby Road in Plano. I don't have a car, and I'm a regular rider of the 254 and 234 buses. As you may know, DART staff recently presented to the board an estimate of how much it would cost to provide a citywide GoLink service for Plano. They showed it in 3 steps. Step 1 only adds the GoLink service. Step 2 removes the 2 bus routes that I use and only travel in Plano. And step 3 cuts back more of the bus services which feed into Plano. Well, to the surprise of almost no one who follows transit, step 3 ended up being the most expensive despite it cutting the most bus service, which shows how much higher the subsidy per passenger is for GoLink. Step 3 makes no sense. Why cut the bus service if it's easier to keep them running? It also imposes an unnecessary transfer on many passengers since there will be no longer be a direct connection between downtown Plano and Addison and Garland. I also want to bring your attention to how similar the net costs are for steps 1 and 2. Going to step 2 might save $1 million or so, but it might also cost a few $1 million more. So why not have your cake and eat it too? You can have your citywide GoLink and not cut any services. If it does end up costing $1 million more, then I think it's a bargain deal for these 2 bus routes, which have provided a ton of additional mobility for me. Plus, you want DART to spend more in Plano, right? So we can avoid the controversy over service cuts by simply stopping at step 1. So I urge you to consider making it clear to the DART board that we do not want the buses to be cut. and that step one of their plan is enough. I think they will welcome the chance to shave a couple $1 million off of this plan. Thank you.
The last speaker is Connor Hulla. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Connor. I think the other speakers have kind of touched on what I wanted to talk about. I used some of those bus routes a lot, and when DART did their analysis, they seemed to want to do the citywide GO link, but when you look at the numbers, it seems very feasible for DART to just keep the buses and provide the citywide GO link, and that's really good. I'll transfer out of Parker Road Station, and the DART buses are actually timed to leave with my train, and that's super convenient. And calling an on-demand GO link for that scenario might be hard. Or if I take the route 236 from Addis, like North Dallas and Plano, and going between those two places, keeping that bus route there rather than turning that to a GO link to bus transfer, again, would be really nice. I mean, the more DART services, the better, right? And I think it's, to help address that funding gap, we want more DART services. So I would suggest you ask DART to keep the buses and do the citywide GO link. And I like the citywide GO link idea because it expands where I can go in Plano. So yeah, I think it'll be really good if we can do the citywide GO link, but in a way that keeps the buses. And I think DART would be willing. I hope they'd be willing. And it's more efficient to keep the buses too, and that's what DART found. So yeah, that's my public comment, and I hope we can just keep both systems. Thank you.
Thank you. That it?
There are no other speakers.
There being no further business, the meeting adjourned.
Here we are in historic downtown Plano, and let's talk about history.
Yeah.
How did downtown Plano get its roots, its start?
Well, this is the area where people first came to settle when they came to Plano many years ago. And in fact, the first property ever platted in Plano was at the southwest corner of 15th Street and K Avenue. And this was the business